How's everyone doing? I hope that you are well. Grab yourself a glass of water, a cup of coffee, cup of tea, and let's get into this lesson. When you get back from doing that, open your Bible to Leviticus 27. We're actually at the end of the book of Leviticus. Now, for anyone who may just be joining in, we go through the Bible chronologically. We've already gone through the book of Genesis. We've gone through the book of Job, which is right after the 11th chapter of Genesis. We've gone through the book of Exodus, and we are now at the end of the book of Leviticus. And in the proper chronological order, next we will be going right into Numbers. So we are going to finish up with Leviticus 27. Let's read and then let's get into the lesson.
Leviticus 27. The Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and say to them, if anyone makes a special vow to dedicate persons to the Lord by giving equivalent values, set the value of a male between the ages of 20 and 60 at 50 shekels of silver according to the sanctuary shekel, and if it is a female, set her value at 30 shekels. If it is a person between the ages of 5 and 20, set the value of a male at 20 shekels and of a female at 10 shekels. If it is a person between 1 month and 5 years, set the value of a male at 5 shekels of silver and that of a female at 3 shekels of silver. If it is a person 60 years old or more, set the value of a male at 15 shekels and of a female at 10 shekels. If anyone making the vow is too poor to pay the specified amount, he is to present the person to the priest, who will set the value for him according to what the man making the vow can afford. If what he vowed is an animal that is acceptable as an offering to the Lord, such an animal given to the Lord becomes holy. He must not exchange it or substitute a good one for a bad one, or a bad one for a good one. If he should substitute one animal for another, both it and the substitute become holy. If what he vowed is a ceremonially unclean animal, one that is not acceptable as an offering to the Lord, the animal must be presented to the priest, who will judge its quality as good or bad. Whatever value the priest then sets, that is what it will be. If the owner wishes to redeem the animal, he must add a fifth to its value. If a man dedicates his house as something holy to the Lord, the priest will judge its quality as good or bad. Whatever value the priest then sets, so it will remain. If the man who dedicates his house redeems it, he must add a fifth to its value, and the house will again become his. If a man dedicates to the Lord part of his family land, its value is to be set according to the amount of seed required for it, 50 shekels of silver to a homer of barley seed. If he dedicates his field during the year of Jubilee, the value that has been set remains. But if he dedicates his field after the Jubilee, the priest will determine the value according to the number of years that remain until the next year of Jubilee, and its set value will be reduced. If the man who dedicates the field wishes to redeem it, he must add a fifth to its value, and the field will again become his. If, however, he does not redeem the field, or if he has sold it to someone else, it can never be redeemed. When the field is released in the Jubilee, it will become holy, like a field devoted to the Lord. It will become the property of the priests. If a man dedicates to the Lord a field he has bought, which is not part of his family land, the priest will determine its value up to the year of Jubilee, and the man must pay its value on that day as something holy to the Lord. In the year of Jubilee, the field will revert to the person from whom he bought it, the one whose land it was. Every value is to be set according to the sanctuary shekel, 20 gerahs to the shekel. No one, however, may dedicate the firstborn of an animal, since the firstborn already belongs to the Lord. Whether a cow or a sheep, it is the Lord's. If it is one of the unclean animals, he may buy it back at its set value, adding a fifth of the value to it. If he does not redeem it, it is to be sold at its set value. But nothing that a man owns and devotes to the Lord, whether a man or animal or family land, may be sold or redeemed. Everything so devoted is most holy to the Lord. No person devoted to destruction may be ransomed. He must be put to death. A tithe of everything from the land, whether grain from the soil or fruit from the trees, belongs to the Lord. It is holy to the Lord. If a man redeems any of his tithe, he must add a fifth of the value to it. The entire tithe of the herd and flock, every 10th animal that passes under the shepherd's rod, will be holy to the Lord. He must not pick out the good from the bad or make any substitution. If he does make a substitution, both the animal and its substitute become holy and cannot be redeemed. These are the commands the Lord gave Moses on Mount Sinai for the Israelites.
All right. Now, the last time we were together, we looked at the blessings and penalties of Israel's obedience and disobedience. To close Leviticus, we are looking at valuations. Now, this chapter deals with vows. A vow is a promise you would make to a person or sometimes persons. It is not something you are forced to do, but something you do on your own. We start this chapter by seeing who the Lord is speaking to and who the Lord is telling him to address. We see this in verses 1 through 2 of Leviticus 27. Again, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, when a man makes a difficult vow, he shall be valued according to your valuation of persons belonging to the Lord." What do we see here? The Lord is speaking to Moses, and he is telling Moses to speak to who? Not the Gentiles, to the sons of Israel. Now, we will break this chapter down in 4 sections. The first section, vows involving humans. We will see this in verses 3 through 8. If your valuations is of the male from 20 years even to 60 years old, then your valuation shall be 50 shekels of silver after the shekel of the sanctuary. Or if it is a female, then your valuation shall be 30 shekels. And if it be from 5 years old even to 20 years old, then your valuations for the male shall be 20 shekels, and for the female 10 shekels. But if they are from a month even up to 5 years old, then your valuation shall be 5 shekels of silver for the male, and for the female your valuation shall be 3 shekels of silver. And if they are from 60 years old and upwards, if it is a male, then your valuation shall be 15 shekels, and for the female 10 shekels. But if he is poor than your valuation, then he shall be placed before the priest, and the priest shall value him according to the means of the one who vowed. The priest shall value him. Now, we looked at different values there, and actually I should have broke it down a little bit different so it wouldn't get so confusing. So let's just do that real quick. First, we looked at 20 to 60 year old men's value. Verse 3. If your valuation is of the male from 20 years even to 60 years old, then your valuation shall be 50 shekels of silver. Then second, they looked at 20 to 60 year old females in verse 4. Or if it is a female, then your valuation shall be 30 shekels. Third, the value of male and females between the ages of 5 and 20. We started in verse 5. And if it be from 5 years even to 20 years old, then your valuation for the male shall be 20 shekels, and for the female 10 shekels. Fourth, the value of a male or female 1 month to 5 years. Verse 6 said, but if they are from 1 month even up to 5 years, then your valuation shall be 5 shekels of silver for the male, and for the female your valuation shall be 3 shekels of silver. Fifth, the value of a male or female 60 years old or older. That was in verse 7. And if they are from 60 years old and upwards, if it is a male, then your valuation shall be 15 shekels, and for the female 10 shekels. And then 6, the value of a poor person. And we saw that they said if the person is poor, the valuation, then you shall be placed before the priest, and the priest shall value him. I want to repeat it like that because maybe it would make a little more sense and it would break it up a little bit. As we move on to section 2, vows involving animals. We see this in verses 9 through 13. First, the animal had to be holy. Verse 9. Now, if it is an animal of the kind which men can present as an offering to the Lord, any such that one gives to the Lord shall be holy. Second, once the animal was given, it could not be exchanged. Verse 10. He shall not replace it or exchange it, a good for a bad or a bad for a good. Or if he does exchange animal for animal, then both it and its substitute shall become holy. Now, this sin is what happened in Malachi's day. Let's look at that real quick. Turn to Malachi chapter 1. And let's see how this sin happened in that day. Malachi chapter 1. All right, there we go. Hold your finger in Leviticus 27, Malachi chapter 1, verses 13 to 14. You also say, my, how tiresome it is, and you disdainfully sniff at it, says the Lord of hosts. And you bring what was taken by robbery and what is lame or sick. So you bring the offering. Should I receive that from your hand, says the Lord? But curse be the swindler who has a male in his flock and vows it, but sacrifices a blemished animal to the Lord. For I am a great king, says the Lord of hosts, and my name is feared among the nations. So you see, some of that robbery that they talk about in Malachi, that is what was happening in their day. All right, now back to it. Third, the priest had to evaluate an unclean animal. We see this in verses 11 through 12. If, however, it is an unclean animal of the kind which men do not present as an offering to the Lord, then he shall place the animal before the priest, and the priest shall value it as either good or bad. As you, the priest, value it, so it shall be. So the priest will give a valuation on that. And then fourth, if a man wanted to redeem his animal, it would cost him 120%. Verse 13. But if he should ever wish to redeem it, then he shall add 1/5 of it to your value. And when you did the math, that value was 120%. So if a man went back on his word, in other words, it was going to cost him 120% to get it back. We move on to section 3. Vows involving things. And we look at this in verses 14 through 25. I'm sorry, my own notes kind of got in my way there. All right, first, the promise of a house. Now we're looking at things now. We see this in verses 14 to 15. Now, if a man consecrates his house as holy to the Lord, then the priest shall value it as either good or bad. As the priest values it, so it shall stand. Yet, if the one who consecrates it should wish to redeem his house, then he shall add 1/5 of your valuation price to it, so that it may be his. Second, the land promise. We see this in verses 16 through 25. I'm sorry about that. Verses 16 through 25. We will look at the land promise in two parts. Number one, the land that is one's own. So we are still looking at the second part of number 3, vows involving things. We're looking at the land promise. We're looking at verses 16 through 25, and we are looking at it in two parts. I'm sorry I had to repeat that. I just want to be sure I wasn't confusing you and jambling my words up. The land that is one's own. We see this in verses 16 through 21. Again, if a man consecrates to the Lord part of the fields of his own property, then your valuation shall be proportionate to the seed needed for it, a homer or barley seed at 50 shekels of silver. If he consecrates his field as of the year of Jubilee, according to your valuation, it shall stand. If he consecrates his field after the Jubilee, however, then the priest shall calculate the price for him proportionate to the years that are left until the year of Jubilee, and it shall be deducted from your valuation. And if one who consecrates it should ever wish to redeem the field, then he shall add 1/5 of your valuation price to it, so that it may pass to him. Yet, if he will not redeem the field, but has sold the field to another man, it may no longer be redeemed. Number 2, land that was not originally his own. We see this in verses 22 through 25. Or if he consecrates to the Lord a field which he has bought, which is not a part of the field of his own property, meaning this was not something inherited to him, this is something he bought, then the priest shall calculate for him the amount of your valuation up to the year of Jubilee, and he shall on that day give your valuation as holy to the Lord. In the year of Jubilee, the field shall return to the one from whom he bought it, to whom the possession of the land belongs. Every valuation of yours, moreover, shall be after the shekel of the sanctuary. The shekel shall be 20 gerah. So in other words, you got to remember, if you brought land from a person and then the year of Jubilee comes around, okay, if you brought land from me and then you went and sold it to someone else, that land will still return to me in the year of Jubilee. That's really what it's saying there. And then we will look at vows and tithes. This is in verses 26 through 34. First, if God's people made a promise, they were to be faithful to it. We see this in verses 26 through 29. However, a firstborn among animals, which as a firstborn belongs to the Lord, no man may consecrate it, whether ox or sheep, it is the Lord's. But if it is among the unclean animals, then he shall redeem it accordingly to your valuation, and add to it 1/5 of it. And if it is not redeemed, then it shall be sold according to your valuation. Nevertheless, anything which a man sets apart to the Lord out of all that he has, of man or animal or of the fields of his own property, shall not be sold or redeemed. Anything devoted to destruction is most holy to the Lord. No one who may have been set apart among men shall be ransomed. He shall surely be put to death. The Lord is very clear on that. Next, number 2. The Lord's people were to be fruitful with their tithe. We see this in verses 30 through 33. Thus, all the tithe of the land, of the seed of the land, or of the fruit of the tree is the Lord's. It is holy to the Lord. If, therefore, a man wishes to redeem part of his tithe, he shall add to it 1/5 of it. And for every 10th part of herb or flock, whatever passes under the rod, the 10th one shall be holy to the Lord. He is not to be concerned whether it is good or bad, nor shall he exchange it. Or if he does exchange it, then both it and its substitute shall become holy. It shall not be redeemed. Now, we need to remember there were 3 tithes. First, there was the general tithe, which we are reviewing here in Leviticus 27. Second, it was the meal tithe to the Levites, which is in Deuteronomy. You know what? Let's turn there. Turn to Deuteronomy. Keep your finger right here, but turn to Deuteronomy chapter 14. Deuteronomy 14. And we are going to start. Okay. So Deuteronomy 14:22. We're going here because remember, second, we're talking about the meal tithe. And it's discussed right here. Deuteronomy 14:22 through 27. You shall surely tithe all the produce from what you sow, which comes out of the field every year. And you shall eat in the presence of the Lord your God at the place where he chooses to establish his name. The tithe of your grain, your new wine, your oil, and the firstborn of your herd and your flock, in order that you may learn to fear the Lord your God always. And if the distance is so great for you that you are not able to bring the tithe, since the place where the Lord your God chooses to set his name is too far away from you, when the Lord your God blesses you, then you shall exchange it for money, and bind the money in your hand, and go to the place which the Lord your God chooses. And you may spend the money for whatever your heart desires, for oxen or sheep or wine or strong drink or whatever your heart desires. And there you shall eat in the presence of the Lord your God and rejoice in your household. Also, you shall not neglect the Levite who is in your town, for he has no portion or inheritance among you. Actually, hold Deuteronomy there because we're going to go back there in just a second. Now, that right there, when it talks about the meal tithe for the Levite, we read it right there in verse 27. The Levite who is in your town, for he has no portion or inheritance among you. Remember, the Levites weren't given any of these things, so this was to help them out. And then the third tithe was the tithe for the poor. If you still kept your finger in Deuteronomy, drop down to verses 28 and 29. At the end of every 3rd year, you shall bring out all the tithe of your produce in that year, and shall deposit it in your town. And the Levite, because he has no portion of inheritance among you, and the alien, The orphan and the widow who are in your town shall come and eat and be satisfied, in order that the Lord your God may bless you in all the work of your hand which you do. So there was a tithe for the poor. I'm sorry that I cannot remember this crooked charlatan pastor's name, but there was a pastor, if I can remember it, I will get back and let you all know, who actually told his congregation very recently that there is no such thing as a tithe for the poor, and actually they are cursing themselves when they don't give the money to his church, but they're giving to the poor. This right here will shoot all that down. The Lord said right there in Deuteronomy that there is supposed to be a tithe to the poor. You are supposed to help out your fellow brother and sister. Your alien in the land, the widows, the people who can't help themselves. When you have extra, you should give extra. If you have 10 bags of rice, you know that you don't need to eat 10 bags of rice. If you know that you only need 8, leave the other 2 out there for the people who can't help themselves. He didn't say leave it for the lazy, but the Lord said leave it to the people who can't help themselves. And then if you are back at Leviticus 27, we'll move on to part 3, which is we close by seeing that these commands were given to Israel through Moses. Verse 34 of Leviticus 27. These are the commandments which the Lord commanded Moses for the sons of Israel at Mount Sinai. Once again, we see who the Lord was talking to and who he was telling him to deliver the message to. All right, people. That brings us to the end of Leviticus chapter 27. I hope you enjoyed this journey through the book of Leviticus. As I always say, go to my website, it's bereanscorner.buzzsprout.com. There you can not only listen to the podcast, but you can get a transcript of it as well. And go to my YouTube page, Bereans Corner. You know you're there when you see the man with the praying hands. In the description, it will tell you everywhere that you can find this podcast. You can pretty much find this podcast everywhere. Anywhere you listen to your podcast, you're probably going to find it. Give us a follow and check out the videos over there on YouTube, and wherever you may find this podcast, give it a like, give it a comment, and tell your families and friends. There's a brother out here, Bereans Corner. He goes through books of the Bible chronologically, verse by verse. We don't want to miss any bit of the Lord's word. It's important that we get this work out here until the Lord returns. I'm trying my best to do my part, and I know that you're out there doing your part. And as always, I am praying for you, and I ask you to do the same for me as we continue on in the Lord's work. That is all for now. God bless.